Today we'll look at how to make a quick sketch of y equals negative sine x. So the negative is the key piece here. It'll be a little bit different from a graph, of course, that doesn't have a negative. But all that negative does is reflects all the points vertically, so over the x-axis. Let's take a look. We have our usual setup with the general form of the equation and our 3 steps. So let's dive right in. Find the essentials in step 1. A, of course, we've already said is kind of the key piece for this graph. It's just a reflection vertically of the regular sine x graph. And that's because A is negative. It's an understood negative 1 out front. So when we find the amplitude, of course, that's a measure of distance, you would just take the absolute value of negative 1. So we'd say the amplitude is 1. That's just the distance from midline to maximum or minimum. That doesn't change. What will change is step 2, our pattern will flip. So we're used to a basic sine graph with a positive A is 0 max, 0 min. And because we're reflecting vertically, that will flip as well. So we'll see that in step 2. Everything else goes on as usual. So B is the coefficient of x, and understood 1 here. That helps us find the period. Use 2 pi over b. So the period, or the horizontal length of a cycle, is just 2 pi here. And we'll set the horizontal scale, taking that period, dividing by 4, so our key points line up. All right. So we'll count by pi over 2 to label the horizontal axis. So count 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, of course, is pi, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2 is 2 pi. All right, and we said A is negative 1, so 1 will work well to label that vertical axis. All right, now step 2, we'll plot our key points. Again, our typical sine pattern with a non-negative A is starting at the origin, 0, max, 0, min. Because our A is negative up here, right here, okay, we'll notice that that flips, but you'll still use the same method that you used for the other, which is pretty nice. So start at the origin, put your first 0. Your next point moving to the right will happen at pi over 2, and you still look to A. Negative 1 is the value for A, so that's your y-coordinate for this first point. And you see here, it's a minimum, and that's what I meant about the pattern flipping. All right, then we have a 0 at pi. At 3 pi over 2, we find our y-coordinate by just taking the opposite value of A, right? And that gives you your maximum. So hopefully you see this is very familiar. You use the same method. We've just slightly labeled our pattern differently. Minimum and maximum just have flipped. All right, step 3 is to sketch it in. And of course the pattern repeats starting at 2 pi and going in both directions. You can repeat this cycle for as many as you need. Looking at our final graph, hopefully you can see it is just y equals sine x vertically flipped. So it flipped over the x-axis, and that's due to the negative out front. That's all there is to it. Eventually, you'll be able to just simply sketch this graph without even going through the whole method. It'll be one you know really well. Thanks for watching. Hope this helped. Be sure to subscribe for more graphing help.